So hello everyone, I'll be talking about ichthyobodiasis or ichthyobodiasis depending on the reference, also known as costia. So costia is the former name of the genus Ichthyobodo, which has species such as Ichthyobodo nicator or Ichthyobodo piriformis, and there have been literature proposing a new species of Ichthyobodo called Ichthyobodo salmonis. It is relatively common and it relatively small. It's about 5 to 10 micrometers, so it's like a red blood cell, basically. So it is a biflagellate, protozoan ectoparasite. So we know there are four types of protozoan, and this is a flagellate. So it is also non-host specific and can exist in freshwater and saltwater water systems. So it mostly affects freshwater fish, where there have been studies nga certain strains kuno sa Ichthyobodo kay maka-affect og saltwater fish. So it is quite it's very jarring kay dako kay siya og kanang uh, uh, effect I mean dako kay siya og kanang range. It spreads horizontally, and I haven't seen mga literature regarding vertical transmission. So, in temperate climates, kay kasagaran, in spring and summer, mo-boom ang kaninga protozoa because they have increased multiplication in warmer waters. So, according to MSD, it commonly affects cichlids or the family Cichlidae and carp, Cyprinidae. So, ang hinumduman nimo is if ma-affect ang fish og Ichthyobodo, it becomes cichlid, sick, and feels like carp. Crap. It affects the skin and gills, and it is not zoonotic, thankfully. So we'll see a picture of, a video of Ichthyobodo in action.
Another protozoan parasite infecting trout is Ichthyobodiasis, formerly known as costia. It is only about the size of a red blood cell and has a comma or teardrop shape. Instead of cilia, Ichthyobodiasis uses flagella for motility, causing it to swim in a spiraling corkscrew pattern. The flagella are also used for attachment to the host fish. Ichthyobodiasis appears to flicker like a candle flame when attached to the host.
So, ang Ichthyobodo kay mura siya og candle flame. And whenever nga mo move siya around in water, murag mo undulate, iyang motion kay murag undulating. This is caused by their movement nga murag corkscrew. So this helps in diagnosis. So just to clarify lang, in the aquaculture community, there some of them they mostly refer to this disease called ick, but Ichthyobodo is not ick. Ichthyobodo comes from the Greek word for fish, ichthos. So it just basically is related to fish, the term. So ich is white spot disease or ichthyotherius, not Ichthyobodo. However, kanang ang causative agent nilang duha kay protozoan gyapon. So, when ang fish ma-affect og Ichthyobodo, you might see blue film or sheen on the entire body or basin mga patches, and these are mucus. It's mostly mas makita nimo sa kanang mga dark-skinned fishes, and then maga-anorexia sila, and then lethargy, and then flashing and piping. So this is a video of flashing.
Folks, if you've ever seen your fish flashing or scratching against surfaces in the tank, this video is going to explain what that is, why it can be dangerous, and how to treat it. Coming up.
So, flashing is basically their behavior when they feel itchy. So, they do this by darting through the water and then sort of quickly pushing themselves against mga rough surfaces. So, it's called flashing because when they move around in the water, kay murag mag-flash, gani magpidlak-pidlak ilahang scales.
Folks,
And then next is piping. So, they go up to the surface and then sort of make a pipe with their mouth. So that's probably why it's called piping. So, Ichthyobodо attaches to the skin and gills. So, Ichthyobodо has two forms. A free form, where kanang nara sila sa water, floating na sila sa water, and then they may also go through binary fission. So, there's also the parasitic form, kanang i-attach na nila. So, if the parasitic form of Ichthyobodо attaches to skin, mo-react ang lawas by creating mucus. So, tungod sa kakatol sa kaning parasite, magbuhat ang fish og flashing behavior. And then, if for example, rough ra kayo ilahang kana ang katong substrate, nilang gi-scratchan, or grabe ra pud kaayo, it will cause epithelial damage and then ma-expose ang subepithelium, leading to possible secondary infections, bacterial, fungal, and then ma-overwhelm ilang immune system because of the concurrent nga mga infection. And then if the body has had enough, it will just cease. So if ang Ichthyobodum attached siya sa gills, the gill lamellae will be sort of denuded, and then magka-hyperplasia na hinuon siya. So when hyperplasia happens, the secondary lamellae sa gills fuse. Secondary lamellae are basically the katong leaflets sa ilang gills, and then mag-gill swelling. This is caused by the hyperplasia, and then this is usually occurring sa primary lamellae. And then they do the piping behavior, and then mag-open ilang operculum. So basically, ang covering sa ilang gills kay mag-abli-abli. And then, because na-compromise na ang kanang ability sa gills, magka-decreased oxygen perfusion and asphyxiation sila, and that will lead to their death, sadly. So if you look at the picture on the left, this is an example of secondary lamellar fusion. So if you look at the right, ang secondary lamellae or kaning murag ribs tan-awon kay intact pa kaayo, but if you look at kaning sa left, mura na jud siya kanang like one clump, sadly. So ang kaning nasa right kay sa primary lamellae, if you look at the center line, nasa murag kanang very wide nga space. So this structure are the kanang primary lamellae, and then nagka-hyperplasia siya. So in diagnosis, you can do wet mount preparations of skin and gills. So it has been said nga Ichthyobodum is easy to treat but difficult to diagnose. So I mean, makita man nimo nga kanang if you look at the pictures kay, if I didn't tell you nga the patient was suffering from Ichthyobodum, it kind of just looks like kanang regular tissue, don't you think? So looking at the skin and then looking at the gills have a serrated appearance. Ika-attach na sa Ichthyobodum. So this is from YouTube actually. You can do wet mount preparations by skin scraping or gill scraping. So you basically, if the fish is under anesthesia, a common anesthesia of fish kay tricaine or clove oil. Or you can use a glass slide and then basically imuhang scrape against the skin in a 45-degree manner. And same with the gills kay murag imuha jung scrape until na I'm liquids nga magawas. So in treating Ichthyobodum, these are your run-of-the-mill treatments sa mga protozoa, kaning salt, copper sulfate, potassium permanganate, and formalin. So, wala ni sa MSD. I've taken this from multiple sources, so please reinforce these lang. However, there are kanang different kanang mga rules in terms of pag-use jud aning mga certain treatments. Like for example, salt. Salt is kanang not advised for fish that are sensitive to changes in salinity. Even kanang mga salmonids nga, mga young nga salmon nga wala pa naka-transition to salt water, kay we should kanang research first what fish can be given salt treatment. So copper sulfate is actually toxic to some fish. And also you have, this is very important po, you have to check the alkalinity of your water, and dapat dili siya below 50 parts per million in order for you to be able to use copper sulfate, or else the toxicity of the copper sulfate will be enhanced. So, copper sulfate and formalin are may affect plants and kanang algae. So, we have to be careful if na mga flora gani sa ato ang water system. Potassium permanganate, we should not use potassium permanganate when it has oxidized. So, potassium permanganate is kanang, di ba, purplish man nga color. Ika-turn na niya og yellow, we shouldn't use it because it is not effective na. So formalin is the at least what I've researched is the most preferred treatment for Ichthyobodiasis. Pero like I said, it's also kanang detrimental to plants and algae. So yeah, all in all, we should treat your fish in a closed system as much as possible. Kay lisod magud if open system kay dili man ka maka-predict sa concentration sa imuhang drug kay dako baya kayo ang volume sa water. So prevention. First, we must provide a stress-free environment. So mostly this is mostly for pang treat na jud in order for the fish to be able to cope with their infection, pero generally we should provide a stress-free environment. So avoid overfeeding. This is important pod because ang food debris kay maka-nourish man pod sa ato ang protozoa. So if mahatag ta og food sa fish and then di nila kanon and then mag-float around sa water, it's very dangerous. And then also avoid overcrowding. So this is simple enough to explain. More individuals means more chances of winning. I mean, being infected. So makada sila og kanang Ichthyobodiasis and then maka-affect sila sa uban. So here are my references. Thank you so much.